Hi, I'm Graham Hennigan, Lily Hennigan's father, and we're going to do a demonstration on how to change a cuffed tracheostomy tube. Now, Lily has got a cuffed tracheostomy tube, which is an Arcadia size 4, and the cuff is there to protect the airway from aspiration, and is actually filled with sterile water. So I'm going to take you through some of the things that are in the bed. The first things first, obviously, is that you've got the emergency trachea kit. We've got the suction equipment. There's a catheter that's already attached, and we've got the new tracheostomy tube, which is in its sterile box. So the first thing to do is actually to prepare this tracheostomy. There's a number of things that you can do to make things a lot easier for the patient, and the first thing that I do obviously is to open up the new box. This is a size 4, which is the size that's in Lily at the moment. Now this is a cuffed tube, as we said, and the reason that it is cuffed is to protect Lily's airway. And there needs to be a certain amount of sterile water that actually inflates it. In this case it's 3.8 mils. So I've already drawn up 3.8 mils of sterile water, and one of the most important things when you've got a new tracheostomy or any tracheostomy is to check that the actual cuff is working. So the first thing that I do is there's the filling chamber, which has got a little bit of air in it at the moment. So we want to get rid of that air and replace it with water. Now if you look at the actual trachea tube, the bit that goes into the stoma, we're going to inflate that with the 3.8 mils, and you can see it filling up. And that is filled with 3.8 mils. That holds the trachea in place and also protects Lily from any possible aspiration. But as you can probably see, there is a big air bubble in there. So we want to get rid of the air. So what I will do is withdraw everything that's in there, expel the air part of the syringe's contents, and then I will inflate it again. And each time you do that, there will be less air that's actually in there. It's impossible to get rid of every little bit, but what you don't want is a load of air in the system and then add 3.8 mils of fluid, which will make the balloon a lot bigger than it should be and cause problems to the trachea. We'll just do that for a third time. Also, doing this gives you the satisfaction of knowing that the balloon is actually working and that it is of a shape which is almost round, so it should hug the contours of her trachea as it should do. So there we've got nearly all the air is out, with one little bubble in there, but I'm not going to worry about that. Tiny little bubble, which is going to be nearly impossible to get out. I'm going to pull that down until that chamber there is absolutely flat. We've just got a little bit more there, and we've still got our 3.8 mils of sterile water. So I'm going to attach that to there. The next thing you can do to make things life easier for you, put that back in its sterile container, is to actually attach the new tape to that, because it will mean that Lily's got less moving around and it will actually be quicker. So you can get all these things done. Now with these particular type tubes, the actual holes in the V flange are quite small, so trying to put a tape through like that is going to be quite difficult. So the easiest thing to do is to just chamfer off to a point, and it will be easier for you to insert the tube. Now in an emergency you would just have to take the old one out and put the new one in. But I'm showing you a procedure when it's a routine change. Obviously you'd skip a few things if it was an emergency change. So that's the tape. So if we now get the actual tracheostomy tube, I'm right-handed, so what I do is thread that through there so it's ready. You'll see why in a moment. So we put that down. I know roughly that it's going to go there because I've done many of them. So we've stuck that down there. The next thing that you can also do to make things easier for yourself. 1 second. Turn that round the right way. Is to obviously now lubricate the actual tracheostomy tube. Get that round the right way. Silly Daddy, put it through the wrong way. There we go. You don't want to be touching the end of the tracheostomy because that is sterile. But you can touch the bits that would be outside of the body. That's better. So as I said, I'll pull that through roughly to about there. Stick that down, so that's one side that's basically done then. So then the next thing is the lubricating jelly, and it's just there just to go on the end of the balloon. Just a few little drips, you don't need to touch it. And what I do is just use the jelly there, it just acts as a lubricant, which you can then use just your little finger just to smooth that on there, being careful not to do it too hard and damage the actual balloon. And then you can see that that there is the actual applicator. And when you suction, that's as far as the suction tube needs to go. In Lily's case, it's now 7 centimetres. So that's the applicator, and obviously that is blocking the airway now, so when it goes in, first thing to do is to pull it out, otherwise she's got no airway. So that's ready to go. We've got the 3.8 mils of water that's already in there. And now what we need to do is to remove the old one and insert the new one. So, the easiest way of doing it is to take the whole thing out as one piece. And also a good idea to give the patient a suction before you actually take the old one out and put the new one in. Now what I'm going to do is put a Swedish nose on Lily for the time being without her oxygen running. And normally Lily is in air for the majority of the day. But at the moment she's not 100%, she's got some breathing problems. So I'm just going to have that there. The reason I put that on is in case she coughed and some vomit or something went down the actual tube, it would go directly into the lungs. So that's just to protect her while I change the tube. So that's ready. So we've removed the old dressing. Just remove any sort of clothing that could get in the way. I mean, Lily's only in a little vest. And she's actually got Velcro tapes. There are some health authorities that insist in tying tape, but Lily's fine with Velcro tapes. She's got 4-limb motor disorder, she's not going to be able to pull them off with her hand. So I wouldn't recommend using scissors because Lily has got that tube there, and it has happened in the past where someone's accidentally cut through that. And with some cuff tracheostomy types, there's a valve involved, and if you cut that, the balloon will stay inflated, especially the foam ones, which would mean then you could never get it out. So, what I do for Lily is, firstly, I've got some normal 0.9% saline in a little pot. And we don't want to do too much cleaning when we're doing the tracheostomy, not to start off with, because the main objective is to get the old tube out and the new one in safely, and then at a later time, once you're happy that everything's fine, you can actually get some cleaning done. But as long as you clean around the actual stoma site, so that there's nothing that can actually fall in there, any granulation or anything like that, make sure that it's nice and clean, clear of any debris. See, there's a little bit there which could have gone down into the stoma. So that's all I'm going to do. So we're going to remove that down to her elbows. So as I said, the other thing what we want to be doing is making sure that there's not a load of secretions in there in the first place. So I've got catheters that are all lined up, ready for use. They're already opened up in case we need them. We've now got to deflate the cuff. Now, obviously that's filled with 3.8 mils of water also, which is checked daily. When you do take the water out of it, the cuff will deflate, and sometimes we'll give a coughing sensation to Lily because things have changed in her throat. So it's always a good idea to have your catheters already lined up. So what we're going to do now is remove the water from the tracheostomy. So that's nice and flat. Check how much was in there. 3.8 mils, which changed daily. So that now is going to get discarded. Everything's sorted here, ready to go in. So what I'm going to do is remove her from her O2 therapy at the moment and just pop that on loosely. There's the coughing sensation that we was talking about, because the balance has changed in her throat now. There's no balloon there. And if you've got kids with colds and maybe some mucus that's in the upper airway, it can just come down and go in the top of the trachea. So that's why it's always good practice to have 2 or 3 of these already lined up. So we're going to wait for Lily to be settled again. You don't really want to be doing this when you've got a baby that's, you know, struggling about and unsettled. You want to try and make it as non-event as possible. Right, so now we're going to go for the actual tracheostomy change. I've got everything here that I need. Bearing in mind that most of the time this will be a 2-person operation, but for this video I'm going to do it on my own. So what we need to do now is not to cut the tapes, we need to loosen them. They're velcroed. So as they're velcroed, all we need to do is to undo them. Once you undo the tapes, right, there's still a certain degree of tension on them until you take them out of the flanges, which is why the holes are designed so they're nice and small, but there's still some grip there. So that one's out, and there's only the need to undo one side, because once you take that out, the lot will come out. So the easiest way is to do it all in one hit. So I have this ready, I've got the tracheostomy ready, I've got everything else ready. So what I'm going to do is just use my hands on her chest lightly, just to support the wings. I'm then going to be just gradually removing the first tape, and then to support the flange while you pull that last bit through, because it could, if you pull it too hard, actually pull the tracheostomy out and cause her damage. So that is now done. Lily's having a small desaturation at the moment. So I'm now ready. So I am right-handed, so what I would suggest is that your most accurate hand is the one that you're going to go in with. So if we get ready now, I've got the applicator in, I've got the jelly on, and I've got one tape already in. And it's a case of out, in, applicator, done. Alright, then we're going to have to fill with water. Okay, Lily Lou. And there's some phlegm that's coming up from the trachea. I've already got one of these ready. Oh, there you go. I'm going to get rid of that. She's a good girl. And as predicted, Lily's a bit sensitive to anything round the throat at the moment because of the problems she's had with her respiratory system. So, okay. So now what I can do is pop her O2 back on. The tracheostomy's in and secured. And now you've already got that tape on. So it's just then easy to reach round pull it through. Just got a strap on her here. Check the wheels. There we go. So it's already on. It's tight on one side. So then what you do is then you can just secure that temporarily. So we know that it's in and safe. Have a rough guess on how tight it's going to be and secure it. Now that's done stage one. We can now make sure that Lily's all pampered and reassured. And remember that she's ill at the moment. She's on prednisolone, she's on antibiotics, and that was the reason for that coughing reflux and gagging sensation and the need to suction her just as we've done the change. So Lily's now fine. The tracheostomy's been changed. The tapes are on, not exactly to the right tension, but they're there. The tracheostomy's secure. And then at a point in the future, in 5-10 minutes, we can then add the dressing and do the final some aqueous cream to the back of her neck just to make everything nice and sound. So that's how I do it on my own. In an emergency situation, I would be doing the main parts of that, which is basically deflate the cuff, remove, put the new one in and inflate, and all the other cleaning and niceties would have to take a back seat really. So that's Lily. She's now had her trachea done, and the final thing that I would say before you sterilise the tube that has come out is to then, I'll just get that syringe which I threw in the bin, is to make sure that the old one was functioning properly. So this is the old one that's come out. We're going to put that 3.8 mils of water in. That's the old one, which is a little bit misshapen now, but that was its 5th use, which now goes in the bin. These are for use for up to 5 times, and it had been in for its 5th time, so that's now going to go in the bin. But you can see that the balloon was functioning, although on one side, and the balloon was slightly lopsided, but that will also fit to Lily's trachea, and it will take a day or so for the new one to fit into where the old one was. So suctioning then, Lily will feel a different sensation, and where we would go down to 7 without any problems, we'd have to go to 6 and then gradually tease it down, because it will cause her to cough, because it's not as snug as fit as the one that's been in there for a few weeks. So that's how I do it. It is easier with 2 people, and would recommend doing it with 2 people, but in some situations you may be the only person there, and if you need to do one, then that's how I do it. So thank you for watching, and thank you for Lily for being able, patient and participating. Thank you, Lily. You can smile now. No, no.